Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to another episode of our WCN Fluencer podcast. I'm your host, Christopher McClellan. You know me as the bow tie guy, now the bearded bow tie guy, because people keep telling me, Jeff, that they can't see my bow tie.
See your bow tie.
I don't know. It's a struggle. And I did this with Helen Bauer from the Heart of Hospice podcast last week. I said, Helen, is it the beard or the bow tie? And she picked the beard. So I don't know if you've got a preference. But
yeah, no, I think it's a beard too. I see a faint outline. I think of the bow tie. See a faint outline.
It's not cardboard. It really is. It really is a felt. But Jeff, it's great to see you again.
Good to be here.
Had numerous conversations before, but now we're getting to do something a little bit more formal, and would love our viewers to know a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot about Connected Caregiver.
Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation.
And I guess one I would really not so much puzzling, but how did a guy get from cereal to caregiving?
It's a good question. Chris, you're referring to the fact that I used to manage Cheerios for General Mills. I kind of got my start doing traditional marketing, consumer packaged goods, Cheerios, pedigree dog food. When I moved to Nashville, I went over and worked for a restaurant company for a little while, and then ended up where I am now with a company that's doing a couple entrepreneurial ventures. And one of those is Connected Caregiver, which is, as you know, is meant to really help family caregivers as they try and care for their senior loved ones. And there's a couple different ways that we do that, and I know we'll get into that over the next 10 minutes or so.
And I've been really privileged to kind of be on the cutting edge of this from the beginning when you guys reached out well over
probably almost a year ago. Yeah,
it's a year, 18 months ago, and to watch how it has progressed. And I always keep saying, and I've told you this privately, I wish I'd had something like this when I was in the midst of caregiving for Richard.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, Chris, when you and I first started talking, the product has really changed quite a bit since then. We thought our parent company is a company called Veristat, and Veristat does remote patient monitoring for doctors and patients, blood pressure, other vitals like blood oxygen, blood sugar, things like that. And at the time when I joined the company 2 years ago, the thought was, well, that's great. We can just take what we're doing for doctors and patients and put it over for family caregivers and their senior loved ones, right? Their moms or dads. And, very quickly, predating even when you and I started first talking, we figured out that you can't just take what you're doing for patients and doctors and drop it over in family caregiver land. So we've expanded way beyond. From talking to family caregivers, we learned what they want. We've expanded way beyond vitals monitoring to other things that family caregivers said they really need, right? Organizational tools, communication tools, ways to coordinate across the care circle, safety alerts, fall detection, and of course the vitals management that we mentioned before. So it's been a good. I joined this company 2 years ago. We really started exploring and talking to family caregivers probably a year and a half ago. And, proudly we launched actually 1 week ago today. I was looking at my calendar. 1 week ago today, we actually launched to the world. So it's been fun.
And I think that, a couple of things that is impressive over and beyond the app, but which I hope you don't mind me saying. And these are two things I wanted to really talk to you about. Is one, you have your own personal caregiving experience as well, which really helps in the design and makeup. And then the other thing that I really appreciate what you've done is you've gone out and talked to the caregivers, and you've done since you're in marketing, you've done the market research for the users, and that's sometimes that's really unique in this this niche market.
Going back to your first question about going from cereal to this, I mean, one of the things that was drilled into me from my time at a couple prior companies, General Mills and Mars, was you got to start with the end user, right? You got to start with the consumer and figure out what they really want. So that it really drove what we developed here at Connected Caregiver. And you did mention, I've got a personal caregiving story as well. So my mother, just about 20 years ago now, was diagnosed with early onset dementia. She was 63 when she was diagnosed, and
that is early onset.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was frontal temporal lobe. It's always hard for me to actually get that out of my mouth. Frontal temporal lobe dementia, so not Alzheimer's, but equally as debilitating. So her time with that and our caregiving kind of journey lasted about 9 years. My sister was local in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I was living in Minneapolis at the time, so I was the secondary caregiver. And really, my sister's experience was very different than my experience with caregiving because she was there, she was local. But I can really relate to what I saw her go through.
Sure.
I can relate to kind of my struggles trying to, periodically come in and out versus what she was doing and stay informed. And I also, we had significant, family dynamics going on as well that I'm sure your listeners can relate to as well. So, I feel great about being able to bring some of those experiences to Connected Caregiver. I'll give you a specific example. We said early on that we wanted to have a way for the care circle. So in this case, it would have been my sister and me to really communicate about all things mom in a dedicated space that doesn't get mixed up in, the rest of your life that's going on with emails or text change or anything like that. Other things being kept up to date on doctor's visits, being able to, know kind of what medication she's on. Are there any interactions? There's a lot of stuff that goes on. And we said, we Connected Caregiver said, how do we bring this all together into one place just to make things a little bit easier for the family caregiver? They're kind of cobbling it together from all these different things. Oh yeah, we've got text chain and email, and I write down the medications on a Post-it note and keep it in my purse, kind of thing. Like, we need to get it all in one place.
And I think that's one of the great things that of technology, especially as it relates to care, that has really evolved over the last few years. Is we've seen all these different areas on a care team per se.
Sure.
And how to meld those care team avenues together so that everybody has as much up-to-date information. And it's just as critical for the team of doctors to have this information readily available well.
Absolutely. We had, as you were talking there, Chris, I remember there was one woman, I think she was in Ohio, it was Midwest somewhere, that we were talking to, and we were doing our research. And she talked about, she was a primary caregiver. I think she had 4 sisters. She had 4 siblings. I think they were all sisters. And she said, at the end of a long day, kind of caring for mom, she'd get home from a doctor's visit and then have to call each of those sisters and have that same conversation, 4 different times. And not that we want to get in the way or replace individual conversations, but I thought, okay, how do we solve her issue of trying to communicate the same thing out to the same people to the group of people at the same time? And how that came to life in Care Essentials within our app is you can take a picture of you get that 1-page kind of summary when you leave the doctor, take a picture of that and hit send, and it goes out to the care circle, within the app, and then it's saved there over time. So you can refer back to it, right? It's not, I think you and I chatted last week, it's not earth-shattering technology, but it does pull together a lot of things that we heard caregivers struggle with into one place, right? And if you could save somebody 5, 10, 15 minutes of worry or searching a day, then that's worth worth $10 a month, right?
Easily, and and it also adds to the quality of time with your.
Yeah,
with your, and I use the generic term, the care partner, and the care team, because you've got this information that is readily available in one spot.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can attend to other tasks and enjoy life just a tad bit more.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things, I'm sure you experienced this, I certainly did in my own caregiving journey. You never get a moment where you're not worrying about what's going on with the care partner, right? And in your case, or in my case, it was my mom, right? And my other prior example, it was her. I think it was her father that they were monitoring. And you're just always worried about the safety and health of your loved one. It's never off of your mind.
Never
and if
off
there's
your
a
mind.
way to use technology to help in that, where you can check kind of the palm of your hand on your phone and see how things are going, that helps.
Which brings me, you're just anticipating all my questions now, Jeff. Goodness. But let's talk a little bit about technology. And I
Sure.
always, it's pretty much a known fact with all my viewers and listeners that there was an age gap of 20 years between Richard and I.
Yeah.
And we had different levels of technology skills. Now,
Sure.
I understand this is going back 9 years now, and technology has changed, but I think one of the other impressive things that I see with Connected Caregiver is how user-friendly it is for anybody at their technological skill level.
Yeah, no, I think that was something that was really top of mind as we were developing it. And that's a question we get a lot, right? Like, if somebody's not tech savvy, how can they use that? In particular, when it comes to the senior.
Right.
Our Care Essentials app can actually be used without any engagement or involvement from the senior at all. So It's really meant to be used by the family caregiver to organize and communicate all the stuff we covered before. And the way that we developed the calendar function and the chat function, right, for communication and several other functions was to take things that people were familiar with in other parts of their lives, right, other email programs or texting, and just pull all that together into the app. So there's really not a lot of having to learn anything new for the family caregiver, most of which are, our age range, probably 35 to 55, right, where they have that senior parent that's needing a little bit more help. And then even, we just mentioned Care Essentials. We also have, what we call Safety Plus, which is the emergency button, fall detection. So that's a pendant. I have one here somewhere.
Mine's
hold
right
it up.
behind
There you go.
Mine's right. It's right in close proximity.
Yeah, all the senior loved one has to do is press the button, or if they were to have a fall and not be conscious, they don't actually have to do anything. It detects if they have a fall, and then somebody will call them on the device or dispatch emergency help if needed. So it's meant to be a very passive kind of thing where you don't have to know how to use the technology. And then when you hit it by mistake, the people answer the phone and they're very nice. Yeah, yep, absolutely. I've tested ours multiple times to get a sense of how effective it is and how fast the response time is. Less than 9 seconds, by the way. And then the third part is on the vitals management. The devices, blood pressure monitor, pulse oximeter, right, the little finger thing that goes on that tells you what your blood oxygen level is, those are cell enabled. So they have a cell chip, a cellular device, a cell chip built right in. So all the loved one has to do is use their blood pressure cuff or the pulse ox or a weight scale like they use any other device.
Exactly.
They don't have to hook it up to a phone. It's not Bluetooth enabled. It's not hooking up to the wireless. It's a cell signal. It's dedicated. Sends it up to the cloud, comes down to the app, and then the caregiver can actually see the results. And the results are obviously stored, and there's a digital record that can be printed or emailed, etc.
Actually, that's on a personal note. That's where I use the system the best, because I talk very openly about my atrial fibrillation and being able to have the records right there for the cardiologist to kind of go through it. There's some personal peace of mind for this as well.
Yeah.
And, if I'm ever in another caregiving situation, I won't have to use those elaborate spreadsheets that I had to create on my own.
Exactly.
It's going to be right there on Connected Caregiver.
What we heard when we were talking to actual users, family caregivers, as well as the loved ones, a lot of people do, but I think the stats are, and I might have said this to you last week, the stats are by the time you're 65 and over, you've got, I think there's a 67% chance you have 2 or more chronic conditions, right? High blood pressure, overweight, heart, whatever that might be. So chances are you've been asked to track your weight or track your blood pressure. And the methodology most people use, they're not creating a spreadsheet like you just mentioned. It's, I write it down, mom writes it down in a journal, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the journal can't tell if a blood pressure is too high or too low. But if you take the digital version, you can set parameters within Connected Caregiver that say, hey, if the systolic is over this or below this, give me an alert as the caregiver, right? Give me an alert and work with your doctor to figure out what the right levels are, but give me an alert when it happens. So that way you're not 2 weeks later as you're looking through mom's journal or in front of the doctor, seeing that it was high, elevated or it was too low. You get that alert immediately, and then you can decide kind of the next steps to take. And then from a physician standpoint, I mean, if you're not tracking your blood pressure, you're supposed to, right? But you're not tracking your blood pressure. The physician only has that one data point, which occurred 5 minutes earlier when the nurse checked you in and took your weight and took your blood pressure. Well, now you've got more of a longitudinal, right, over time, ups and downs of blood pressure. And ideally, you'd be able to, if you had a year's worth of blood pressure data and the doctor is giving you different blood pressure medications to try over time, well, now you can say, oh, on February 15th, I tried this and look what the result was, right? But you just have to get in the habit of if you don't have a connected caregiver or some other connected device, you have to write it down and really, have to remember it. So
I think this is probably one of the, if I could use this sports analogy, it's one of the game changers in care, is having this ability to have these electronic records that you could share with the doctor. I mean, famously known for carrying my green folder with me wherever I went.
Sure.
Because it's just 9-10 years ago, this wasn't available. That's how much the technology has changed, where everything was pretty much written down, stored in a computer, but you still needed to have a hard copy. You can take it right with you. And any doctor, if they can't appreciate this information, there's probably not the doctor you want to have.
Yep, absolutely. Then I think I don't think we're not there yet. We collectively aren't there yet, but I think, passive monitoring and wearables are going to be, those are still developing, right? Obviously, Apple Watch and Fitbit do a nice job of tracking things like heart rate and sleep and things like that, but nobody's really figured out how to have a passive monitor that does blood pressure, for example, right now, right? Or like, what's a passive monitor that can tell you the weight, right? It's still going to be the old-fashioned scale or connected scale doing the old-fashioned thing that can tell you that. So, I think things are going to continue to evolve in the coming years, 5 years, 10 years. And on our kind of product roadmap, we want to be able to incorporate those emerging technologies. And some of the things that we've done on Connected Caregiver are we don't outsource our development and our programming. It's done by
all in-house.
Yeah, it's all in-house, right? Which is more expensive, but it allows us to really be more proactive and reactive to if there's any issues, as well as if there's emerging technology that we really want to integrate quickly.
Well, you're having you're having your heart and your mind into the project, which
exactly
in and of itself makes a big difference.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is kind of a off the beaten path question, but what as you've gone over these last 2 years, what have you learned that has surprised you?
I'd say a couple different things. One, just how many caregivers in I say this situation where it's adult child caring for a mom or dad there are. A lot of folks in this space are familiar with there's 57 million people that we classified as caregivers in the United States, which is, 1/6 of the population, right, is somehow engaged in personal caregiving. And when you narrow that down for the connected caregiver audience, which would be kind of adult children for, aging mom or dad, it's 26 million, people in that situation. And I think, that just blew me away that there were that many. But I think once you start talking about it, and you were in a caregiving situation, so you probably, you would talk to other people and find out, oh, they're in one as well. They're in one as well. So that's been very surprising to me. I think some of the things, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, there's going to be more and more people in that situation going forward as, the population ages, the alternatives for professional care, skilled care are not growing at the same rate. So there's going to be more of one, there's a huge desire for people to age in place, right? To stay in their home.
Exactly.
And number two, there's going to be less options to do things to get care outside of the home. So there's just going to be increasing pressure on family, friends, right, to help take care of folks that need help.
Yeah, because really, when you think about it, caregivers have been and will continue to be the backbone of at least the American healthcare system, and I think that even worldwide. I know there's cultural differences aside, but when you get right down to it, there's no strangers when it comes to caregivers.
Right.
We may not know each other personally, but when we share our stories just a little bit, we understand the road we're on, where we've been, where we're going. And as the population ages, I just had my 66th birthday, so I'm kind of on the
happy birthday
on that side of
right. The multiple chronic conditions. There you go.
The multiple chronic. Yeah, there's a few going on right now.
Yeah,
but not during this conversation. This is a good conversation. But it comes back to sharing our experiences and the realities, and having folks like you and Connected Caregiver who are tackling these issues from a whole different perspective of technology that is going to make it a tad bit easier for the next round of caregivers that are right behind us. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. You were asking about things that are surprising. I don't know that I was surprised by this, but one of the things that jumped out and kind of reinforced what I believed was the family dynamics involved with caregiving. And it's a wide range, right? We were talking to, I mentioned we talked to family caregivers. We also talked to loved ones, the seniors. And there were some that were, we were talking about monitoring your blood pressure on a daily basis, and it could be sent over to your family. And some were like, that's great. My daughter is so involved in our care. Yeah, absolutely. And some were like, I don't want her, not only I don't want her up in my business, but the other was, I don't want to burden her as the senior. I don't want to burden my daughter. I don't want to burden my kids with my struggles or health issues. So, that's just the reality of family caregiving. There's going to be, all families are different, right? So there's going to be
all families are
different situations. So,
I sometimes think I live in a Pollyanna world where I like to say, just kind of leave your family baggage at the door and take care of the person who you need to. But, we all have our own little idiosyncrasies with our family. But when it comes to caring, hopefully we can put those aside. But what you've created makes it a little bit easier for people who have issues with themselves that they can get the information that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the hope. And one of the examples we usually give is, you as a family caregiver, you're probably calling your mom or dad every day. Did you get sleep last night? How you feeling? Would you take your medicine?
Right.
Did you? Right. That with being able to automate that a little bit and have that information come to you more passively. Well, now you can have, more, better phone calls where you're not asking all the quality phone calls. But frankly, some people said, I just like that I don't have to call my mom or dad, right? Like, we're good having those quality phone calls once a week. I don't need to have it once a day. So, it's to each their own, but everybody still kind of needs the same information. It's up to them then what they do with it or how they change their lives. I mean, our target, kind of we think the main user that we really developed this for, they're probably 45 to 55 years old. Mom or dad is probably 65 to 80, somewhere around there. Well, at 45 to 55, we found that the caregivers probably still working. If they worked, right, they're still working on their own. Mm-hmm. They probably have older children of their own still at home. So now it's taking care of their own kids. They're working. They have their own life. And now this other thing is going on where mom or dad needs a little bit more help. So, anything we can do to make that just a little bit easier. All the right information stored in one place, communications in one place. It's, it just relieves some of that burden. And
that next generation of caregivers, they're the ones that are a little bit they're a little bit more tech savvy.
Yeah,
than what
sure.
I just like what my generation and then what Richard's generation was. But the other impressive thing, Jeff, that you've done is you've made this affordable.
Yeah, we really tried to. I mean, the other thing that you hear when talking to family caregivers is just how expensive it is, right? Worry about the care that mom's going to need, the medication, if they're needing professional caregiving assistance. Everybody's worried about how expensive things are going to be. For Connected Caregiver, the base product, which is Care Essentials, which is that organizational tool, is $10 a month. We're new. We've got a deal going on right now where it's free for anybody that wants to try it out for 2 months. If you try it out and don't like it, you don't have to continue. If you try it out and like it, it's $10 a month going forward. And that's $10 a month, whether it's just you using it or you plus a sister or a spouse or whatever, so that you can build out that care circle. And then if it gets to the point as, needs change and you need an emergency button with fall detection and GPS, we offer that as well. That's $45 a month, which is one of the more affordable, probably the most affordable
considering what's outside of the market.
And that includes the $10. It's not an additional $45. That includes the $10 for Care Essentials. So $45 gets you that emergency button plus Care Essentials.
Now I want to go back because you used one of our favorite 4-letter words.
Free?
Free. Yeah, free.
Yeah. So how do you get the free, right? So it's a 2-month free trial. So if you use the code 2 months free, when you go to the Google Store or you go to the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store, you can get the 2 months free.
Sure.
If you can't remember 2 months free, you can go to our website at myconnectedcaregiver.com, and we have that code right at the top of the page. And obviously, that's a good place to go if you want to learn more about Connected Caregiver and all that we offer.
Very much so. And we'll have all this information on your landing page on the Whole Care Network with the code. Right. And goodness, Jeff, I'm kind of thinking this isn't going to be our last conversation, but I hope not. We could continue to talk forever, because I'm very grateful that you kind of pulled me in early on this to test it out, and what a product that you're creating. And again, I'm going to encourage all of our viewers to take you up on that 4-letter word.
Appreciate it.
Try this. Try out Connected Caregiver, and you won't be disappointed. But Jeff, again, one more time, give all of our viewers the information on how they can be in touch with you.
Great. So the product is Connected Caregiver. You can learn more at myconnectedcaregiver.com. If you want to download it and try it for free, that code is 2 months free, and it's available on Google Play and Apple App Store.
Well, Jeff, with the great work you and the team at Connected Caregiver are doing, you are certainly a WCN influencer, and I
see what you did there. Thank you.
Really thankful to be a part of this, and thanks so much for helping family caregivers.
Great. Thanks, Chris.